talked to me about, and other players within the change room. We've got a couple of good senior lads within there. The younger ones, they've got good ability, and everyone involved is there for a reason. They had a successful season last year, and the main thing is to continue to build on that. It is going to be tough, but I've certainly seen enough to say that we can really progress this year and have a good year.
What do you think's a realistic target this season, Matt? I don't want to say stay up, because you obviously want to do better than that, but what do you think you can achieve?
For sure, yeah. Staying up is the big one, but as I said, they come off a successful playoff win last year, and building on that, building a group that can compete at this level, and which they have done. And I certainly feel like we can definitely surprise a few teams this year. There's a lot of ability within the group, and with everyone within the club, we're pulling in the same direction, in the right direction, and working hard every day. That's what it's going to take. I believe that we can.
Inspector of Constabularies told Nick that so-called two-tier policing doesn't exist. Figures including the ex-owner Elon Musk have suggested officers are treating some groups more harshly than others, but Sir Tom Windsor says his intervention isn't right.
Well, Mr. Musk, it seems to me we should stick to battery cars and rockets because he's very good at it, and leave to the UK authorities the job of dealing with the protection of the safety and security of our communities.
A murder investigation is underway after a woman was stabbed to death in Suffolk. The victim, in her 20s, was found in Ipswich just after 7 o'clock last night. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have held their first joint election rally. Mr. Walz, a Minnesota governor, was chosen as her Democratic running mate yesterday, and he started by taking aim at Donald Trump and J.D. Vance.
You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy and, yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see. And make no mistake, violent crime was up under Donald Trump. That's not even counting the crimes he committed.
The Trump campaign has called Mr. Walz a dangerously liberal extremist. Hamas has named Yahya Sinwar as its new overall leader. The mastermind of the October the 7th attack in Israel replaces Ismail Haniyeh, who was assassinated in Tehran last week. Sinwar currently tops Israel's most wanted list. Team GB are hoping for success in athletics, cycling and sailing in today's competition at the Olympics. 51-year-old Andy McDonald will compete in the men's park skateboarding, breaking an age record. It follows last night's silver medal for the 1500-metre runner Josh Kerr. In the city, the FTSE 100 a short time ago was up 69 at 80.95. The pound buys $1.27 and the euro 16. LBC weather, sunny spells and showers for most parts of the UK. Some heavier rain in Scotland this morning, a high of 23 degrees. From Global's news.
1 minute, you've got the gymnastics on. Off she goes. It's a flippy one. Another flippy, followed by a flippy twisty, and the next. Flip, flip, hooray! You're a millionaire. Lotto. What will you be next? Play around. The National Lottery. Account terms, terms apply. Use to be 18 or over.
Conservatives, when they were in power, moved to ban terrorists, jobs and other people who've been convicted of high-level antisocial crime, to take them off the housing list. The Labour government is to overturn that. Would you say they're right? And of course we'll continue to monitor preparations for what is believed to be possibly the greatest day of demos in the unrest for so far.
Nick for Worry at Breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Nick for Worry at Breakfast on LBC.
Interesting story tucked away. It really is tucked away actually in the pages of the Times today concerning Health Secretary Wes Streeting. He says the NHS should turn away racist patients. This is Muslim GPs reporting they're scared to carry out home visits. He says racist abuse against NHS staff, and I quote, brings shame on our flag and on our country. 2 GP surgeries in East London will close early today amid fears for staff and patient safety. So that's legal practices that are closing. It's doctors' offices that are closing. Doctors' surgeries, I'm sorry, that are closing. That's Britain in 2024. I'm not blaming the doctors, by the way. Please, I'm not blaming them for a second. They're both at Walthamstow. They said they have had threatened disruption with plans to target a nearby immigration bureau. Elsewhere, Muslim GPs say they're afraid to carry out home visits, and the Royal College of GPs said staff must travel in groups for safety. The London Ambulance Service said staff had reported an increase in racial abuse and hostility. On Friday, 2 Filipino nurses were attacked as they travelled to work to provide emergency cover during unrest against Sunderland. Wes Streeting says these people bring enormous shame on the country. People who are abusing NHS staff can be turned away and should be turned away. So what of that idea? Well, in the first hour of the show we were discussing a different aspect of this unrest. It was Elon Musk's ongoing war of words with the Prime Minister, who he dubs two-tier Sir Keir Starmer. In the course of which I took a phone call from Ali in East Grinstead, and during our conversation he told me that he is a GP and he said he was also a Muslim. So I asked him about the hypothetical moral dilemma that we'll now look at in this hour. If you're on duty at the hospital or the clinic that you work at, and a far-right protester was brought into you because his head was split open, he'd been hit by a brick, he had the flag of St George, and he had a T-shirt on which he'd written the P word, go home, would you treat him?
Definitely. This is my duty. This is my duty to treat anyone. I'm not really dealing with anyone. I will deal with any people regardless of the background, regardless of the religion, regardless of what they're doing, whether they agree with my thoughts. When I'm a doctor, I'm treating people. This is why I took the oath forward. This is why when I've done my graduate work,
And if they abused you, and if they said, and please, this is only for purpose, get your hands off me, I want a white doctor, again you would treat him, Ali?
Do you believe that happened to me? That happened to me once or twice. Unfortunately, throughout my whole career in the UK, and I was laughing to them, and I said they didn't say exactly that. They said, "Where's the white doctor? Why white doctor's not here?" I've been told that there are a lot of white doctors here. There are a lot of really people, and we're part of this community. And this really can turn to be a joke, can turn to be like last time I saw, but it's unfortunately really what we're saying. What I am saying, I'm appealing to the community to look for real information.
Let's bring into the conversation Dr. Chandler Blackmore, who's former chair of the British Medical Association Council and GP Committee, still a practicing GP in North London, and regularly helps us with medical matters. Good to have you on board, sir. How dangerous a path might the Health Secretary be down a path? Might he be stepping with the idea that the NHS should turn people away? Good morning.
Good morning. I think it's really important to put this in context. I mean that the NHS is predicated on the principle that we as doctors, nurses, treat everyone equally, no matter who they are, whatever their background, race, colour, religion, and in fact, therefore, it's absolutely right that we stand by that principle from both sides. That patients need to also treat the healthcare professional, with that same level of equal respect. And I think West Streeting, by being clear about a zero tolerance approach, is not just right, but he also provides enormous support to the hundreds and thousands of workers in the NHS who do deserve that commitment right from the top.
So it is right to turn someone away from hospital?
Right. Now we already do have guidance. The British Medical Association has guidance, as does other organisations. And when we say turn away, we're talking about turning people away who are being overtly racist and are aware they're being racist. And in those situations, we should not be compelled to treat someone. Remember, if a healthcare professional was to refuse to treat someone due to racist reasons, they're likely to be struck off the register.
But define racism, doctors, and the writer at Spiked Online. Question I put to the doctor, Brenda, comes to you. A dangerous path down which to tread, saying that some people could not get NHS treatment. Morning to you.
Good morning. Yes, I think it is a dangerous path. I think West Reading is playing with fire here. I'm glad to hear the former chief of the BMA clarify that if someone has a medical emergency, they will be treated regardless of whatever bigotry they might hold. Because West Reading didn't make that clarification, there was no nuance at all. He didn't distinguish between some oaf with a flu who goes into a doctor's surgery and starts hurling around the N-word or the P-word, which I think is a social disorder problem that might require some solutions. And he didn't distinguish between that and someone who has a medical emergency and also has racist views. So West Reading, it seems to me, has elevated his own need to virtue signal over the defence of the principles of the NHS, and that's a worrying sign.
More broadly, a month and a bit in situ, how's the government responded to this crisis?
I think it's not responded very well, and I think, two-tier care is a very apt description.
Oh, you do? Really? Okay, go ahead. Why would that be, Brendan?
And I think the reason some on the left and some in the liberal media are so defensive about this term is because they know that it's true. They know that following the Hair Hills riots in Leeds, the police ran away and let the rioters blow off steam. They know that in the media there were sympathetic pieces saying, well, what's the causes of this? Maybe it's austerity. Maybe they're just really angry and alienated. They know that they did all that in relation to Hair Hills, whereas in relation to these riots, they've sent in the riot cops completely tooled up, and the liberal media now suddenly thinks riots are a bad thing and a fascistic thing. So they are defensive because they know that these double standards are real, and they have no answer to why they treat riots by ethnic minority people as sympathetic and riots by the white working classes as the end of the world. They have no answer to that double standard.
Brendan, always enjoy our time together. Thank you, Brendan O'Neill, as Chief Political Writer at Spiked Online. Let's come back specifically to the NHS then, and the assertion made by West Streeting. I won't name the medical practices in East London because that's only going to possibly attract some form of action towards them. That's the last thing I want. But they will close early to ensure their staff can go home. Just as troublingly, if it's not as troubling, the LAS, the London Ambulance Service, says their staff has received an increase in racial abuse and hostility. If you're a medic or a consultant or a nurse and you happen to be black or Asian or mixed race and there's someone wearing a t-shirt telling you to go home or whatever, or stop the boats or whatever else, or even worse, should you be able to say, I'll tell you what, can someone else treat this bloke? I don't fancy it, thanks. 9:15 LBC News Headlines, Thomas Wells.
Police forces have insisted they're ready to deal with any further outbreaks of rioting. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will set off on a campaign tour of the US Midwest later. The man who masterminded the October the 7th attacks in Israel has been named as the new leader of Hamas. LBC weather, sunny spells and showers for most, high at 23 degrees.
LBC travel, I'm Joanne Webb. Long delays continue on the northern stretch of the M25 in Hertfordshire at junction 23 at South Mims. The motorway had to be closed. Well, it's back open now, but still long delays both ways from junction 22 at London Coney and 24 at Potters Bar. Also on the sunny stretch of the M25, it's very busy anti-clockwise from 11 at Chertsey to 10 at the A3 after an accident, but all the lanes are now back open. In Essex, A120 remains closed both ways at Braintree following an accident. There are severe delays in the area. In Oxfordshire, there are delays of about half an hour on the A34 northbound up to the Milton interchange, and in Cornwall,
house, that he was banging the door. Pretty dark times, aren't they? We talked about the potential Scarlet inquiry. Steve says there's no chance that the Labour Party know the cause of this discontent and these riots. It will be highlighted in the inquiry, and therefore they will not sanction that. And lastly, Dave says, I'm getting rather annoyed, I've changed your words there, with this government and the mainstream media. I'm so far right. Back in 1986, I joined the RAF as a pilot with the option of a one-way trip to Moscow to defend the communists who were campaigning for CND back at home. Today I run a successful company. My friends generally run their own companies and they fly for airlines. One even has a pixelated face and medals. We all voted reform. Are we far right? Well, none of us own a cross of St George t-shirt. We don't have tattoos up our necks and we don't like football. We're just normal, sensible demographic of the country, happy to see controlled immigration of qualified people, irrespective of colour and creed. Keep coming. Stephen's in Westminster. Stephen, your view of what West Streeting is floating today. Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. First time caller, long time listener.
Great to have you on board, so thank you, Stephen.
Fantastic. Right, let me just get straight to the point. West Sweeting, he really should think before he makes such comments.
Right.
If you take his view that doctors could, or healthcare professionals in general, could start to select which patient they may wish to choose, and they were his sort of words.
People who are abusing NHS staff can be turned away and should be turned away.
Okay, let's put the boot on the other foot. How about somebody comes in who's murdered a child and is abusive? How about somebody coming in who's committed a terrorist atrocity in the UK? May have even been shot by the police, maybe died, needed a life-saving treatment. What do we do? Do we then select, are we not going to treat them people? I just don't think that the thought process he's used has really come across in his statement. It's a knee-jerk reaction to a reaction we're already seeing on the streets, which is a shame that people are taking these sort of massive steps and rioting and causing problems, but people are disaffected and people are unhappy.
I take you back to the killing of Fusilier Lee Rigby in Woolwich by two people who I won't identify, who are now serving life terms. Having shot those two people, the first people who then attended and started to provide for first aid were the armed officers from the Met who shot them. So having got them down, having gone over, because I've spoken to one of them, and kicked the weapons away from them, the knives away, they then started to apply what's called CPR or whatever to try and save their lives.
Yeah, as they should do.
Absolutely.
Human life is a valuable thing and nobody should want to take it from anybody else. But we can't start to pick and choose who we treat on their political views or the atrocities they may have committed. We are humans after all, and I believe it's our duty to protect each other. We
are, Stephen. Great to have you as a first time. Look after yourself. Look forward to our second conversation. Be like Stephen. Get it off your chest. Get it on the radio and call me on 05. No idea what the next number is. I'd go high. Let's go 058. Next one's got to be lower. 4. I'll end there. Anywhere near? Who knows? Steve's in Blackpool. Steve, what do you make of what West Streeting is saying?
Yeah, I'm just remember what Steve's just said in Westminster. During World War II, British medics treated German soldiers completely opposite sides.
Oh, what a good point.
During Iraq, the insurgency, they were treated by British medics when they were injured. Afghanistan, Taliban fighters were treated by British medics and things like that, so we kept them alive and that kind of stuff. So we were all citizens of this country and people think in different ways, and I'm not pick and choose.
I'm going to take it a slightly different way. So you are running Blackpool Royal Infirmary or whatever your hospital is called.
Quebec.
Sorry, sir? Quebec?
Blackpool Victoria.
Blackpool Vic, right. You're running the Blackpool Vic, and it comes to you that a nurse has requested not to treat a patient because the nurse is a Muslim girl, and he's come in with his t-shirt saying P word, go home, and she doesn't want to treat him. What action would you take?
Reminder of the Hippocratic Oath.
Sorry, matey. The Hippocratic Oath?
Yeah. First, do no harm and treat all people equally.
She's got to have got, even though he's got that written on the t-shirt, and she's rather unsettled by that, or he for that matter.
Do you think that those police officers that you just mentioned before were happy about having to treat people? It's their duty. It's to save life. And if you're going to join the NHS, the main principle is to save life and to, stop people from being in pain and things like that. You cannot pick and choose who you treat, because if you start to pick and choose who you treat, then it'll be like, well, he doesn't think like me, I don't really want to treat him. It's a slippery slope.
He's a United supporter, not a City supporter or something like
that. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, good luck at the Blackpool Victoria Hospital. Steve, thank you, sir, for that. Jenny's in Basildon. Jenny, what would you say to that nurse if he or she says, I don't want to treat this person? Morning.
No, I agree with them completely.
But you're there. If you are a nurse, you've taken the Hippocratic Oath.
Yeah, but I don't take a Hippocratic Oath to be abused.
They're not abusing you. Because if by the way, if a nurse is there, he, she can call security, but this person is just clearly has racist tendencies because of the T-shirt he's wearing.
No, I just don't think, if you're in a profession, you bear in mind, those nurses, doctors, everything, they spend years training, okay?
Yes.
For the good of everybody. They don't distinguish between black, white, Asian or whatever. You know, I've always had an Asian doctor. I love Asian doctors. They've been the best.
Right.
And I just cannot get my head around the fact that someone who needs medical care will go to a hospital and say, you're not treating me, is absolute ignorance.
I agree.
Can I just say one more thing, Nick? This is about how to stop these riots, yeah? Well, we've not had a word from the King. Not one word. Okay?
Right. I don't know that you want to have the monarch commenting on all us. Jenny, I don't know.
No, this isn't about politics. This is about, he needs to get on the TV, make an appeal to everybody just to stop.
Well, I think you'd set a very dangerous precedent. I'm racing from memory. I don't think the Queen addressed the country after the 1980 riots. I don't think
No, but they need to, they're changing. The monarchy needs to change. They need to change.
Problem. We can't have the monarchy involved in political matters. That is.
This isn't politics. This is violence. This is people dying, getting injured.
It's fuelled in part by political policy, isn't it? So.
Yeah, but it's also fuelled in part by social media, by just.
Okay, good question. I mean, it's a really. I'm very grateful you raised it because it's a really interesting idea. Lastly, do you think people who are prepared to throw bricks at police officers and actually at police dogs, do you think they'd listen to the words of the King?
Yeah, I do, because they're supposed to be patriots.
They're not patriots.
They love their country. We love our Union Jack.
Well, they don't love the Union Jack that I support, but that I salute and would stand up to at various ceremonies. They're not the sort of patriots that I recognise. They're thugs who just want to ruck. Jenny, you've made a fascinating point. Let's see what others make of it. I'm only move on to get other conversations going. And I said earlier that the previous government, the Conservative government, proposals announced in January would have meant people with unspent convictions for certain criminal antisocial behaviour would be banned for getting social housing for a maximum of 5 years. Okay? So this is high-level antisocial behaviour, or even riots, which wouldn't have been as relevant in January as when they proposed it, or terrorism. So these rioters, who, as I say, are tearing some of our towns and cities apart, why shouldn't they be biffed off the social housing list? Well, guess what? Labour now will ditch that. This has been revealed in a written parliamentary answer to a question tabled by the Conservative Housing spokesperson, Kemi Badenoch, and it's been confirmed by Housing Minister Matthew Pennycook. Marta de Souza is a housing commentator and property expert. How do these lists work, Marta? Good morning.
Good morning. Well, most of these lists are at capacity, unfortunately. That's the problem with social housing. We simply don't have enough. And with right to buy, that was put in by our previous government, a lot of the social housing was sold. You could buy your own council home, and the idea was that money was going to be used to build more council homes, but they were just not being built at the speeds that they needed to. Now, Labour's come out and said, no, we're not going to